In my last 3DS video, I talked about Resident Evil Revelations. In an older and unused script for that video, I briefly mentioned Resident Evil Mercenaries 3D. This was an RE spin-off game only for the 3DS that consisted purely of the main game's Mercenaries mode, and is the subject of today's video. This version of Mercenaries, released in 2011, takes little elements from a lot of various RE games and mashes them all into its own little spin-off. You'll see maps from RE 4 and 5, mostly 5, but characters and weapons from all sorts of other RE games. Now what do you do in Mercenaries? Well, the main gameplay loop consists of you going through several arenas taken from regular RE game maps as you try and build up the highest score possible under a strict time limit by killing basically zombies among other things. Said time limit can also be extended by breaking these red objects during gameplay. Your performance is graded via SS through F, and each character can have a different grade. In terms of graphics, the game uses Capcom's own MT Framework mobile engine, which was specifically designed for use between the 3DS and Vita, and would go on to be used for other projects involving the said consoles. This results in some very good looking environments that are polished and detailed among already good lighting and textures. So while the game uses assets from other RE games, again mostly 5 when it comes to the maps, they've been refitted to work with this engine, allowing them to maintain a good graphical prowess. And I'm sure they look even better in 3D, however I can tell you. But I really do have to give Capcom some credit, as this is true Resident Evil Mercenaries on the go in 2011. Yes, we had games like RE4, iOS, Degeneration, and Mercenaries Versus, but none of them were arguably on the caliber of something like this. Of course, it was done with a completely separate engine as well. It's pretty cool that they managed to pull this off in the way they did. I played this on a new 2DS XL, and the frame rates seemed pretty stable at 30 FPS with some minor dips. I can't say the same for older hardware, but I doubt it's anything bad. Gameplay wise though, it's pretty fun. The combat feels satisfying, not to mention it's fun toying around with new loadouts and seeing what sticks with you. The shooting feels good, and getting headshots as well as comboing enemies with a sick finisher never gets old. It is carried over very well to the small handheld. The game will also throw some bosses at you, some big and some small, to make the gameplay more varied as well as tense. Sometimes said bosses will be the focus of the level, other times they'll be thrown in with everything else, and you might face two during the same round at times. There's also a skill system thrown into the mix, allowing you to manage as well as level up new skills for each character. The main addictiveness as well as value of the game comes from trying to get higher and higher scores with different characters via replaying stages over and over again. I'm fairly certain that's the intended way of play, as while you can play from start to finish like any other game, you'll most likely be pretty disappointed with how short it is. So if getting new scores, each one higher than the last, is your thing, then you will enjoy the spin-off. The game also has co-op play, so you and a buddy could play around over LAN or internet. Now in terms of controls, unlike RE Revelations, the game has no C-Stick or Circle Pad Pro support. So if you're rocking a new 3DS of any sort, you're fresh out of luck and stuck using the more dated controls, which do thankfully have some variants. For instance, I use Type-C, which means I can move with the left joystick and look with the right face buttons. This is opposed to the more traditional control schemes that have you looking and moving with the same left joystick while alternating between the two. The game also has first-person aiming, similar to what we saw in Revelations 1, so that's a nice bonus. What I would have loved to see was Capcom adopt the game modes brought on by Resident Evil Mercenaries Versus, which was an old iOS game that had you in the Mercenaries mode but in PvP. You would essentially be fighting against other players with guns while using the janky one joystick for looking and aiming control scheme, all while zombies are attacking you. To see a mode like this included with the main game would have been fun, especially if it had bot support, but alas we did not get that. Ultimately, I had fun with this spin-off. There's not too much to say about it other than the core RE shooting was properly carried over to the 3DS in a manner that will keep you satisfied and having fun. Don't get me wrong though, I still prefer raid mode over Mercenaries. Is the game worth the play? Yes, but only if you can find it for about $10, which I feel is a good price for it. Any higher and honestly you might feel ripped off. When it came out, it was apparently full price, which means it either went for $40 or $60, and that's way too much for a game like this. I'd also suggest H shopping it. Now you're probably like, well Spence, you shouldn't be promoting H shop with how sketchy it can be. Well, it's either you get it for free or waste some money and pay more than you should. I mean, you can buy it here for $30 on eBay, but I highly advise against it as you will feel ripped off. $10 or free is definitely the way to go with this game, and it's hard to fault a game you get for free. Also remember, there are more modern ways of playing Mercenaries on the go. Take a look at all the RE Switch ports, not to mention portable Windows gaming has improved heavily since 2011. It makes this version, as impressive as it is, all the more redundant because now you can literally take the actual games on the go that this one tried to emulate. Now I'm a sucker for 3DS games, so I'll stick to this, but keep in mind RE5, 4, and 6 among others can be played portably elsewhere. Hence, I only recommend this for $10 at most or free, because at the end of the day, it's just more Mercenaries, nothing extremely special.